just to go over what we learned so far in this section. It says that verbs here أفعال right? Verbs are divided into two categories. And we said, talking about different aspects, we could say there's three categories. There's the past, the present, and the command. We can talk about it like that. But here we're talking about as far as how they're made up, right? As far as time, then there are three categories. As far as like what letters they're made of, then they are two categories. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. I mean, we have Sahih, al-Akhir, and Mu'tal al-Akhir. We said the Sahih al-Akhir is any letter of the alphabet except the ones which are Mu'tal, which is if it ends in an alif, a waw, or a ya. If it ends with an alif, a waw, or a ya, then it is Mu'tal al-Akhir. Sahih al-Akhir is every other verb. Right? And we said Arabic as a whole, words are either mabni I did that backwards. Mabni or mu'rab. Right? Mabni or mu'rab. We said that inside of our kalam, inside of our Arabic speech, right, it's going to be three types of words. Three types. Right? It's going to be an ism, a noun, a fi'l, a verb, or a harf, a particle. And we said the fi'l is three types: the madi, the mudari', and the amr. Now, from these, huruf are mabni. Right? The fi'l amr is mabni. The fi'l madi is mabni. So the only thing we have being mu'rab are asma and mudari'. Fi'l mudari', present tense. But as we'll learn today, even some of these fi'l mudari' can be mabni. Some of them. So the ones that we're working with in grammar, because in grammar we're working with the i'rab, meaning the changing of the ends of words due to something, or being due to them being placed in some type of construction. There's something before this word, right, which makes it change its ending. Right? That's what grammar is. And so we're only working with really two types of words here. We're working with asma and we're working with fi'l mudari'. Everything else is mabni. Once you learn it, you learn it. You learn fi, it's fi. You learn min, it's min. You learn li, it's li. You learn ala, it's ala. It never changes. These are huruf. They never ever change. Right? If you learn the fi'l madi, if you learn how to say fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alat. If you learn how to do this, fa'alta, fa'alti, right? Fa'altu, fa'alu, right? Fa'alu, fa'altum. Sorry for the little sloppiness. Fa'altum, fa'altunna. Right? Fa'altunna. No, I did that backwards. I did it the wrong place. Give me 1 second. I'll fix it. Fa'alat becomes fa'alna. Right? Fa'alna. Then fa'alta becomes fa'altum. Right? Fa'alti becomes fa'altunna. Right? And fa'altu, when it's plural, fa'alna. If you learn how to do this, it's never ever going to change no matter what comes before it. It's done. And we learned that some of these are mabni ala fatha, such as some of them are mabni ala fatha, such as these two. Right? Fa'ala is always going to be fa'ala. Fa'alat, this lam is always going to have that fatha on it when she does something. Jalasa, jalasat. Akala, akalat. Dhahaba, dhahabat. Istaghfara, istaghfarat. Right? Doesn't matter. Arsala, arsalat. It's always going to be mabni ala fatha. Right? And then if we look at some things are mabni ala sukoon. Some things are mabni ala sukoon, such as fa'alta, fa'alti, fa'altu, fa'alna, fa'altum, fa'altunna, and fa'alna. All those are mabni ala sukoon. Right? Now, these first three over here, as well as these two, are mabni ala sukoon due to the ta al-mutaharrik, the ta mutaharrik, this ta that changes, it has a vowel on it, right? It has a vowel on it, so it changes due to that. Whereas this one, fa'alna, is mabni ala sukoon due to the noon and niswa, right? So it could be due to the noon and niswa. And this one is due to the na and fa'il. But they're all mabni ala sukoon, and it could also, the fi'l mudari can be mabni ala damma, right? Due to the waw al-jama'a, which is here, right? But the fi'l mudari is always mabni, right? It's mabni, always. Then, so when we have our first chart here that we're talking about, is mabni. Then we have the fi'l amr. The fi'l amr. If we know how to make the fi'l amr, then we know how it's going to be mabni. So we have, we'll use ijlis. Okay, let's make the mudari first. Let's make the mudari. Tajlis. Tajlisu. Tajlisina. Right? Tajlisina. Right? Tajlisuna. Tajlisuna and tajlisna. technically, we can command two people as well, but as we said, we're not really going to go over that right now. Tajlisna. Okay, now when we make this a command, we say, we drop our ta and we make our dhamma a sukoon. We say ijlis. Right? Ijlis. When we do the same thing here, we drop our ta and our dhamma here is this noon. So we say ijlisi. Right? Ijlisi. This is a ya. Ijlisi. Then we say, we drop our ta and our, what's representing our dhamma here, we say ijlisu. Right? And here we say ijlisna. We just drop our ta because we need the noon and this were there to show who we're talking to. We say ijlisna. Ijlisna. So, when we look at this, we see ijlis is mabni ala sukoon. It's always going to have a sukoon in a command. We're talking here about commands. The amr. It's mabni ala sukoon. It's always going to have it no matter what comes before it. Ijlisi is mabni ala kasra. No matter what comes before it. That scene is always going to have the ijlisi, ishribi, udkhuli, ukhruji. No matter what is always that third letter is always going to have that kasra. Here ijlisu, the scene, the third letter is always going to have a dhamma. Right? And here ijlisna is always going to have a sukoon. So when we look at this, we know how they are mabni. And if we have tajlisan and all this, then it's, like I said, different, right? So now, looking at our chart, and as we said, this goes for verbs which are sahih al-akhir, those words which are sound in their endings. They don't have an alif, waw, or a ya. They're not mu'tal al-akhir. If they have mu'tal al-akhir, they have an alif, a waw, or a ya at the end, it could be a little bit different. Right? It could be a little bit different. And those are exceptions that we're going to go over, inshallah, as we're learning. So now, asma' or mu'rab. You put something in front of them, they become a dhamma, a fatha, kasra, like this, a sukoon. Here, or not a sukoon. Nouns don't have sukoon. Awesome. Then, mudari'. Now, we need to know how to make the present tense chart. We need to know how to do this. We need to know how to make the present tense verbs. Something that is necessary for us to do. Right? So we say, let's take a verb. We'll say, yadhabu. 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 Right? That's he went. Tadhabu. She went. Right? Tadhabu. This is you went. They're both the same if you pay attention. She went and you to a man went. They're the same. Alright? Tadhabina. You're talking to a girl. You went, but to a girl. I did that wrong. Didn't put enough humps. Tadhabina. Right? And then adhabu. Adhabu. طيب. That's the singular, right? Plural. Yadhabuna. Right? Yadhabna. Yadhabna. Right? Tadhabu for you. Tadhabuna. Tadhabuna. right? تذهبنا. تذهبنا. For you girls, you women went, right? And then نذهب. نذهب. طيب. We can place things in front of these present tense verbs which will change them. Which will change as we've learned. We can tell someone not to go. We say لا تذهب. And this dhamma becomes a sukoon. We can say لن يذهب. Right? Len can change it to being mansub and make it a fatha. So there's things in front of these present tense verbs which can change them, which means they are mu'rab. They are mu'rab. That's why we have them in blue here, right? There are a few which are mabni, which we're going to go over today, but they can change. The mudari' can change, but the Madi and the Amr cannot change. Is that understood with everyone? Okay. We have types of words, right? We have lots of categorizations. In fact, you can find Ajrumiya in like a chart form, like what we're drawing here on this page. You can find Ajrumiya like that in chart forms, right? So, some of our words, this section that we're dealing with now in this book is dealing with Mabni and Mu'rab. Mabni and Mu'rab, meaning words which don't change their ending no matter what. Or huruf, fi, ila, min, ala, an. No matter what you put before them, they're always going to be fi, ila, min, ala, an. They're never going to change. Right? Hal, for a question. Right? Ma, if it's a question. Right? If it's a question, ma. Men, if you're asking a question. Right? These things never ever change, even though men technically is a noun. Right? So there are, when we have fil madi, no matter what you put before it, it's never going to change. As long as you know how to make the fil madi, fa'ala, fa'alat, fa'alta, fa'alti, fa'altu, then these are never ever going to change. Nothing I can put in front of them is going to change, because that's the whole purpose of Nahw. It says in Ajrumiya, it says, Bab al-I'rab, the chapter of I'rab, wal-I'rab huwa taghyir أواخر الكلمة أواخر الكلمة لاختلاف الأوامر داخلة عليها. To make that short, it is the changing of the ending of the word due to something that came before it. Due to something that came before it. So for instance, when we have Muhammad, it's a noun. It's from the asma, which we're saying are mu'rab, right? Which are, huh?
Go back to the other page.
Which page? Which page?
Go back.
I don't know which page you're talking about, Akhi. There's 5 or 6 of them open.
That one. Now you said, is that and you said was a noun?
Men. Who?
Man is a noun, okay. Because it looked like you was pointing at the and.
No, men.
Okay.
Right? Because it means who. So it's talking about somebody. Okay. So now we have Muhammad. Muhammad, if we look it up or we just write it on the wall and we write all the verbs on it or whatever, all the vowels on it, it's going to be Muhammadun with a tanween at the end. That's its origin. That's its origin. But we can put inna in front of it and make it Muhammadan. right? Or we can put min in front of it and make it min Muhammadin. It's going to change. But no matter what here I put on these verbs here in the past tense, no matter what I put on them, they're not going to change. If I were to put something in front of fa'ala, it's not going to change. No matter what I put in front of it, fa'alat, it's not going to change. Fa'alta, it's not going to change. No matter what I put in front of it. Same thing goes for min. No matter what I put in front of it, it's not going to change. It's a harf. So we look at this. Our huruf are mabni. Our asma are not. They can be changed. Right? The fil madi is mabni. No matter what I put in front of them, as I said, it's not going to change. Our fil amr, these are mabni. No matter what I put in front of them, they're not going to change. Right? Now, this fil,
with those words, you're saying that's not going to change.
Right.
Okay. But technically, you wouldn't have none of those word men or Allah, none of that in front of those words, all right?
But I could have something in front of it. You understand?
Yeah, I know something, but
right. But there's nothing that you can put in front of it. We'll put it like that. There's nothing you can put in front of it that will change it. Nothing in front of it will change it. It's only going to be what it is. Always.
okay.
It's never going to change. As for the fil mudari', for instance, let's look at the past tense. If I put ma fa'ala, he didn't do it. It doesn't change. You understand?
No.
If I put a negation in front of it, if I put la fa'ala, because it can happen, right? It doesn't change it. Whereas on the mudari', if I put la in front of it, like he didn't go, it can change it. La tadhab. If I put la of don't do it, it can change. If I put len in front of it, it can change. If I put certain an adhaba, uridu an adhaba, it can change. You understand? Whereas in the madi and the amr, it'll never ever change. Right? It'll never change. Nothing you can put in front of it to change it. Whereas in the mudari', there are particles and there are things that we can put in front of them that will change them from yadhabu to yadhab, for instance, or to yadhaba. Right? There's things which can make it yadhabu or yadhaba. It can take it away from this dhamma because it is fil mudari'. There are things that can go in front of it that will change it. Whereas the madi and the amr, there's nothing we can put in front of them to change it.
Okay.
Understand?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So if I say أريد أن أذهب,
Naam.
it changes أذهب.
From adhabu becomes adhaba, right?
No.
And is from the nawasib. It's something when entered on a present tense verb, it will change it. Right? It will change it from adhabu to adhaba. Right? Or I can say lam adhab. Lam adhab. Which I put a sukoon on it because of the lam. The lam makes it majzoom. So I say lam adhab. I didn't go. So now I change it from adhabu to adhab with a sukoon on it. Just like when you say uridu and adhaba, I changed it from adhabu to adhaba with a fatha on it. So, looking at our chart, the fil mudari' is mu'rab. It changes. Whereas the amr and the madi, they don't change. The huruf, they don't change. So the good thing about that is is this seems maybe a little complicated, but the good thing about it is not really. It's really making things easy, as I said in the beginning, because we got 5 types of words. We got huruf, we got 3 types of verbs, and we got asma. And so out of our 5 types of words, 3 of them, right, don't change ever. So once we learn them, we know all of them. They don't ever change. And some of our fi'l mudari is mabni, and they won't change, as we'll see, right? And even some of our asma are mabni, and they won't change. So we're narrowing down the words that we're working with that do change. And the importance of this is so you pronounce it properly. You don't want to say uridu an adhabu. You understand? You don't want to say that. So you have to know how things change and what they change to. So we're narrowing down what changes, so the amounts of changes that we need to make are going to be less and less as we narrow them down. So what types of asma are mu'rab? As an example, are mabni, because we said that they're mu'rab. But if I take my red pen, I can put in parentheses, some of them are mabni. Some of them are mabni, right? Okay, like what? What's mabni from asma? Hada. It means this. That's a noun. Hal turidu hada? Do you want this? If I say hal turidu siyaratan, do you want a car? You say yes. Hal turidu siyaratan. Just put that for now, right? You say yes, so this is a noun. Do you want this? Do you want a drink? Hal turidu mashraban? Hal turidu ta'aman? Hal turidu hadha? I have it in my hand. I'm not mentioning it. You're looking at what's in my hand. I say hal turidu hadha? It's a noun, right? Hal turidu hadha? It's a noun. If we say, for instance, and it's never going to change. Hadha is always going to be hadha. Always. Men, as we said, men. Right? Is who. This is in replace of a person. Right? If we talk about ha'ulai, which is the plural of hadha, right? Dhalika. Tilka. Right? Hadihi. Ulaika. Right? All these never going to change. Alladhi. Right? Alladhina. These are all nouns, but they never ever change. So there are even nouns that never ever change. Right? So once we learn those, then we have fewer and fewer words that we have to worry about pronouncing correctly. Because we're getting to the point where we're going to be able to read without vowels. Well, we're going to have to read these books without vowels. Unless we're reading the books of hadith, and usually they put the vowels on them, right? So, the number of words that we're learning change are less and less. Most of the fi'l mudari change, but there are some which don't. Most of the asma change, but there are some which don't. So now, if we have 5 categories of words, and 3 of them don't change, that's 60% of our types of words do not change. So we got 40% change. 40% mu'rab. 60% mabni. Of types of words, not words in general, because there could be more nouns than verbs, as an example, right? Okay, then from these 40%, we have, of each category, we have some words which are mabni. So that means even less words we have to worry about changing. Even less than 40% of our categories of words, we have to worry about pronouncing properly, because once we learn them, they never ever change. Does that make sense to everyone? طيب. Now, inshallah, let's look at those mudari' which will change. We'll get rid of this chart. We'll get rid of this chart so that we can have another chart if necessary. Okay, let's look at the book. Ahwal Bina al-Mudari, the kinds or the types or the conditions when the Mudari, the present tense, is mabni. Right? لَأَسْتَمِعَنَّ النَّصِيحَةَ. Okay? Like I listen hard or strong. This to the advice. This lam is the lam of emphasis, and this noon with this shadda on it is noon at-tawkid al-thaqila. Right? Noon at-tawkid al-thaqila. And it means that I listen, but it should be astami'u. Not it should be, but originally without any of that on it. Astami'u. Meaning I listen. Right? لَيَذْهَبَنَّ الْغُلْمَانِ. Again, this lam of emphasis with the noon at-tawkid al-thaqila. Right? That the youth may go. Something like that. That the youth may go with emphasis. أَلَا تَسْتَرِيحًا يَا سَعِيد. This is the noon at-tawkid al-khafifa. It does not have the shadda. In my book 116. In my book 116. It does not have the shadda and the fatha on it, right? It just has the noon at-tawkid al-khafifa. Right? These are noons of emphasis. One is taqira, one is khafifa, meaning more emphasis and less emphasis. And ala tarhaman, same thing. Hadha al-miskeen. Right? Won't you rest? Ala tastarihan ya Saeed. Won't you rest, ya Saeed? He's saying it with emphasis.
Got a question on
it. Yeah, inshallah. We've answered it before. What is the difference between this and Ajrumiyah? Ajrumiyah is just a different grammar book. That's it. I mean, somebody else wrote a different book. This book breaks it down rule by rule, whereas Ajrumiyah gathers it all together. This book has a lot of examples. If you actually study this book, it has lots of examples and practice and stuff to go through. Whereas Ajrumiyah is just a bunch of rules put together in one place. This is the rules with examples and breaking it down step by step. Whereas Ajrumiyah will say there's a dhamma and there's 4 things that replace the dhamma, and here they are. They're nouns, they're verbs, they're past tense, present tense, commands, all that. And it's all in one place. This book breaks it down step by step. So this 4th sentence, Ala tarhaman hadha al-miskeen, like won't you be merciful, tarham, rahama, right, to this poor person. But these are all noon, at-tawkid, al-thaqila, and khafifa. So we see there's istami'u, right? Yadhabu is our verb. Yadhabu here in the first one, right? Yadhabu, right? In the third one, tastarihu, right? And then tarhamu. Tarhamu. Now we see that when we add this noon at-tawkid al-thaqila, that our ayn in istami'u became maftuh, right? Istami'anna. So instead of istami'u, when I add that noon at-tawkid al-thaqila, my ayn takes a fatha. Same thing, yadhabu, my dhamma. When I add the noon at-tawkid al-thaqila, my third letter there is going to take a fatha. When I add the khafifa, right? When I add the khafifa, it's going to have a fatha, right? When I add the khafifa, it's going to have the tarhamu, it's going to tarhaman. Tastarihu become tastarihan. It takes a fatha instead of dhammas. So, if you add the noon al-tawqeed, a khafifa or thaqila, to a verb, to a present tense verb, the last ending is going to take a fatha, no matter what you put in front of it. Right? For instance, if I tell you, don't have mercy on this poor person, la tarham, la tarham, with a sukoon, because I'm commanding you not to do it. This la an-nafiya or la an-nahiya, negation, telling you not to do it, prohibiting you from it, makes the verb majzoom. But if I add it with emphasis, it's going to make it, right, mansoob, right, and it's never going to change, as we have the la in front of it, but it's a question, and it's not a prohibition, and it's got the noon and tawqeed. So now, and this chapter is kind of extra for us right now because we're not going to use this noon and tawqeed, al-thaqila and khafifa a lot, but we need to know that if we add the noon and tawqeed, it changes our last vowel to a fatha. That's this first column. Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay,
now, in this second question, or column,
I got one.
Fadal.
So when we say, I'm trying to see if I got this correct. I know I missed out a lot. When you said la tarham, if we add the tawqeed khafifa, it would be la tarhaman.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly.
And the tawqeed thaqila la tarhamanna.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, jazakallah khair. Just wanted to clarify.
There's a question being typed in. But can anyone see the PDF on the screen? Or is it just me? You guys see the PDF?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Everyone sees it, inshallah. Okay, number 5. الطالبات يستمعن النصيحة. It is using the same word. الطالبات يستمعن النصيحة. The female students are listening to the advice. Right? النساء يذهبن. The women are leaving or going. Right? ألا.
Not that listening there is not with the emphasis like listening hard.
Oh,
like the first.
this is the female them. As where's our chart?
Okay.
See here,
All right.
yadhabna.
Yeah.
This is female, plural, third person. They, a group of females, right, are going. They, a group of females, at-talibat, are listening. Right? The an-nisa yadhabna, those group of females are going. Ala tastarihna ya fatayat, won't you rest, oh girls? It's not, this is talking to the group of girls. If we look on our chart here, tadhabna, this is female, plural, second person. You're talking to them. Right? You're talking to them. Ala tastarihna ya fatayat. This is female, plural. Right? Second person and third person. And then ala tarhamna hadha al-miskin. Won't you? Again, it's the females. This is not this noon is the noon in niswa, the noon for females. Whenever we have that, we see that the vowel before it, it changed from a dhamma to a sukoon. But that's in our normal chart here. That happens in our normal chart. But the point is, whereas I can change, for instance, Amir asked us about the sentence Uridu an adhaba. Right? Adhaba. It changed adhabu to adhaba. Right? Now, if I want to say the girls, I say aradna. This is them. Aradna. This is that same form that we have up here. Right? Aradna from yadhabu. This is the past tense though. Right? Aradna. And they wanted to go. We'll say aradna an yadhabna. 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 In other words, in adhabu became adhaba. But yadhabna never changes. Even with the N in front of it. The N, the len, the la, the lam is never ever going to change. Those two forms of our verbs never ever change. You understand? All these others are mu'rab. These are all mu'rab. But these two never ever change. Yadhabna wa tadhabna. Yaf'alna taf'alna. No matter what. If you put the lam, if you put the la, if you put len, if you put, no matter what you put in front of it, n, it's never going to change. It's always going to be in that same form. So, that knocks out two of our, say, 12 categories because we have a plural. So I'm just saying 12 even though I mean the dual. We have the dual, which I haven't written here, but so that would add two more, right? But two of our 12 are mabni. They never change. Yadhabna wa tadhabna, they never ever change. Whereas if I want to make, for instance, let's make this same sentence in the male. Let's make the same sentence in the male. Aradu, they wanted, and yadhabu. Yadhabu. I'm going to drop my noon. Right? I'm going to drop my noon when it becomes mansub. But when I did it with the women, I didn't change anything. My pen grabbed my paper 1 second. I don't know why it does this. It grabbed my paper and won't let me do nothing. 1 second. Man, stop. It just wants to resize my paper. Okay, man. Where's my marker go down? But you guys don't see me going down. There we go. That'll work for a second till I figure out what's wrong with this pen. Okay, stop. Just do it there. Anyway, you guys can see there, right? Where it says Yadhabu, it dropped the noon. Whereas Yadhabna never changed. Right? So inside of here, we have, man, I'm going to take I don't know what's wrong. They grabbed my paper sizer and now I don't want to change anything. Okay, if we look at this here, we see يذهبنا never changes. يستمعنا, it never changes. That's the third person female plural. تسترحنا وترحمنا, those are the second person feminine plural. They're never going to change. Whereas the rest of them, if I put something in front of them, they're going to change. Now, like I said, that rule we'll use. That rule we will use. Right? This rule, the second half of this column, we will use often enough. Whereas this first column over here, we're not going to use it very often. Why? Because we're not going to use the Noon, Tawqeed, Thaqila, and Khafifa very much. Now we have had that in Hadith and stuff before. We have had it. I don't remember which one, but I remember I think we brought it up at that time. But we have had it inside of some of our books. We will read it, and when we read it, we'll come across it. And if you want to memorize it, then you're more than welcome to do so. It's beneficial probably for you to do so. But the Noon, Tawqeed, Thaqila, and Khafifa, we don't use that very often. Any questions? Whereas the female, plural, second person and third person, we will do that. We will use that, and we need to know that no matter what we put before it, it won't change. Right? Somebody's typing. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. Trust me, I know. I don't think none of y'all know it's harder than I do. I know it's hard too. I'm learning it too. Especially speaking it. It's hard.
So only in the past tense, تذهبنا and تذهبنا.
No, not past tense. It's present tense.
Present tense. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's present tense. It's present tense.
Will never change.
It never ever changes, right? I think I broke my pen, man. Oh, is she here? Anyway.
I just want to know
What's the easiest way to memorize grammar books? Practice. There's no other way except practice. No other way to do it except for practice. You're not, I mean, you can sit there and memorize Ajrumiyya, no problem. It's your choice to sit there and memorize it. But to memorize it, you know, without implementing it, it is not going to benefit. Like I said, I know brothers I met in 2009 that they knew grammar left and right. But still today, if you put them in front of Mashayikh, they're going to ask me what the translation is. What did he say? What did he mean? I didn't understand that word like this. You know, grammar has its part, it has its role, but it's a tool. You just have to practice. You just have to practice. So you need to learn and figure out what these things are, and if you are able to do that, then you know, you'll memorize the rules. How do you know La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah? How come you don't say La ilaha illahu or La ilaha illallahu? How come you don't say La ilahu illallah ha? How come you don't say that? Because you memorized it, right? But now you memorized that rule, La ilaha illallah. You memorized that, and you didn't really memorize the rule though. You just memorized the phrase. But inside of there's rules of why that phrase is like that. And if you practice enough different sentences and see how they are, then you're going to memorize it. One of the best ways is, like we said, practice. And that's what we're doing in reading. That's why when we take Nawaqid al-Islam and Thalathatul Rasul and Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya and Al-Qawa'id al-Arba, when we take these books and we read them, then then we're looking at the rules and we constantly see and the word following it becoming mansub, anna, and the nouns following it becoming mansub, and we see we see this over and over and over. We see it, and when we see that, then we learn that rule. The unfortunate thing is we don't have a lot of nun al-tawqid wa thaqila or khafifa. We don't have a whole lot of them, but they do happen. And since they happen, we need to know the rule because we're learning them. But we don't have a lot of them, so it's not the most important thing that we need to worry about right now. If you want to do it, take Ajrumiyya, and if we go down here, if we scroll down, right? It's not letting me. Let me see. If I scroll down on mine and then, go through this book, right? And in the first section, this qaida has a box. In the second section, they didn't draw a box for the qaida. Go down and write down these qaidas. Here, so far, we've learned 37 of them. We've learned 37 qaidas in this book from the beginning until now. Write them down and go over them, right? The first section of the book, we translated them. We had the rule translated. What is it, 15 or 16? How many was it? You remember, Abdullah?
Mm-mm.
I'm going to look up real quick. Let me see. Where's my page here? Okay, how many rules did we have? In the first book, we had 24 rules. 24 basic rules we had in the first section of the book. In the second section so far, we've had 13 rules, going over Mabni and Mu'rab and stuff like that. So inshallah, maybe next week we'll take that to go over rules 1 through 37, maybe before we move on, if you guys want to, no problem. But this is, just to know, is about to hang up in 10 seconds, that the feminine plural, second and third person, they never change, as well as the nun al-tawqid al-thaqil. I'll see you guys tomorrow for 40 hadith. Assalamu alaikum.